Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Julia Royston with another edition of Live Your Best Life, where I bring you people, places, tools, information, and resources to help you to live your best life. Nope, not my life, not Big Mama's life, not the people next door and the Joneses down the street. It's your life. Jesus said, "For I come that you might have life and have that life more abundantly to the full, overflowing." So we want to have that abundant life. Sometimes we have questions and issues and problems, but that's my job to bring you people, places, and things to help you, inform you, encourage you, inspire you to help you to live that abundant life. So I've got two people on, yes, a husband and wife team on today that I want them to introduce themselves, tell us where they're from, and tell us about their ministry, just where we can find their website, because I'm going to ask them some more questions later. But I want them to tell me where their church is located and where you can find them on social media. So introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, the website of your church, and where people can find you on social media first. Take it away.
Well, hello, my name is David Smith. I am a native Houstonian. I pastor the New Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church located here in Houston, Texas. Our website can be found at www.newbethlehem.org. And to my side is my wonderful wife.
Hi, I am Linda Smith. I am originally from Smithfield, Virginia, and I have been here in Houston since 1976. So I kind of consider myself a Houstonian now. I am, like he says, we're at the New Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church, and we are located at 9126 Jensen Drive here in the city of Houston, Texas. 77093. You can find us there. We're also on social media. You can find us at the New Bethlehem on social media.
Excellent, excellent. I feel like I'm a member of New Bethlehem because I see their ministry and their services on a weekly basis, and I'm always inspired by ministries who are going live on social media. So I guess my first question is, for those who are young and aspiring in ministry and they feel a call, how were you initially called into ministry?
Well, I was called into ministry with a personal experience. Before we become saints, we were sinners. And I had a couple of experiences where I knew the Lord was getting ready to prepare me to get my life in order. One of the things I think you have to be in tune with is to know when God is causing you to transform or to change. Um, I had an accident where I flipped over in my vehicle. Um, so after all that experiences, the Lord gave me the 14th chapter of St. John, let not your heart be troubled. And that stayed in my spirit for whatever reason. I began to start attending church. I was always a member of a church, but I wasn't saved. And so when I got saved, began to start listening and really being fine tuning and going to Bible study, those type of things, Sunday school, really being serious about God's word in my personal life. And then I heard this calling. I just heard God calling me that I'm going to use you to preach. I kept seeing myself preaching. Got up one mission, I'll never forget, it was a mission night at my home church, and I got up to expound on the lesson. I said, the Lord called me to preach, and
Oh, wow.
it was it was it was like it was Sunday morning service. I mean, the mission began to start shouting and running all over the church. They said, no, I knew it was in you, but yeah, I confessed that calling. And that was in 1985. So I have been preaching since 1985, been pastoring since 1992. So that's how I got that calling. I have a servant's heart, and so God has really blessed me in that area. And I want to say this, that when God calls you, God prepares you, and He gives you just what you need as a helpmeet. And I thank God for my wife, because everybody can't be a pastor's wife. And so I appreciate what the Lord has done in my ministry, along with his calling. When God calls you, there's always a plan. So I thank you for that.
Okay, well then I gotta ask First Lady because people, for some first ladies, not all of them, say, "Oh no, it's him that's called. I'm not called." And I'm like, "Well, no, you may not be preaching, but you called to be his wife."
Right.
So so if somebody were to get in a relationship or begin dating a minister, or he doesn't even have to be a minister yet, he's just active in church. What would you advise that young single woman?
Actually, definitely prayer is the number one key that you have to be prayed up, because just as he gets the calling, but you are also under the same calling. And when I say under the same calling, that you are going to be serving side by side, and a house divided cannot stand. And so we know that we have to come together. So my advice to her would be is that he gets the calling, but you are also called too, because now you become one. Two become one, and one stands, two divides. So we know that we have to be under the same calling. So it's actually your calling as well. So
Right.
be prepared for that.
Wow, prepare yourself, pray. You're exactly right. And then if you see it ahead of time, because was he already ministering when you all got married? Was he already a pastor when you all got married?
No, he was not.
No.
No. And
Wow. So I
yeah.
guess that's my question of, I know some young ladies who are like, well, I didn't know he was going to be called into that.
Right.
Married and I do know that Pastor Smith was, and we'll talk about that in a second, about his professional life. So I married a professional gentleman who I knew loved me and gonna take care of me. I didn't know all about this God and church thing, like, over the top. So when you marry someone who is not already in ministry and not already pastoring, how does that work?
Well, actually, we were actually dating, and we had been dating since high school. So when God began to transform, I saw the transformation. So I was preparing myself as God was transforming him. I was coming along with the transformation of my own life, because there were some areas in my own life that needed transforming. And so just as he transformed, I began to transform also, so that I too could become one.
Right.
And then we were actually, before we were two denominations, two separate denominations.
Yeah.
So that was also something that we had to actually get into place. And so what we say that the wife has to follow the husband. So
Right.
I had to leave my denomination actually and come over to where he was. So that was also a big transformation. So it was a lot of transforming going on during this time.
Right.
I
Right.
was
Right.
able to make that transformation work. So to see the butterflies that we are today.
That is excellent. That's excellent. And I had to do the same thing with my husband.
Yes.
I came to his side and to his denomination. I felt like a deer in headlights. I was totally out of my element.
Yes.
And but when God does call you, he does qualify you. And some of the things I still brought over from my former denomination, and I'll always be Pentecostal from my head to my toes. So it doesn't matter where I am, I'll always be right there. So you're absolutely right. I love that when God is transforming on one end, they always used to teach us that he works on both ends. He
Right.
doesn't just have the one person transforming and working on themselves without the other person or the other party or the other business or the other entity not being working on themselves, being prepared for you and preparing for your next. So we're going to stop right there. We'll be back with more with Pastor and First Lady Smith. We'll be right back. And we're back with Pastor David Smith and First Lady Linda Smith. I'm so excited. Maybe one day I'll get back when this whole COVID thing goes away. We can get back to Houston and go eat some Mexican food and some fried catfish somewhere. I don't know. Hopefully, I'll get down into your area. So, I
Right.
want to talk, I want to ask you all both because um, you all have had very professional lives as well as ministry lives. And so I want you to really talk about and discuss the being bivocational because I know a lot of people who are in ministry full time, wonderful, and that's awesome. But there are some people in ministry who are what I call bivocational. They have a day job and ministry as well, which is 24/7, I believe. So discuss that. What did you do in your regular day job before ministry?
I worked for the City of Houston Public Works Department. Started off from the very bottom. And when we talk about the bottom, you're talking about working in the field with your hands and your back. But through time, God blessed and elevated me through the career and training. When I left and retired, I retired as a manager of the Planning and Operations Department, so under Public Works. And so I've had a great journey in my tenure working with the City of Houston. But to kind of go when you talk about bivocational, um, initially. It was kind of rough. You have to learn and feel your way through as a pastor because now I find myself a few years into pastoring that I needed to go to seminary. So now I have a wife, I have children, I have a job, and I'm trying to attend seminary. But the gracious thing about that is learning early on is when Jesus made disciples, that's what I had to make sure is develop leaders in our church because I couldn't do it all. And so what we did was make sure that some of the responsibility as it relates to teaching Bible studies, teaching some of the ministry we have for the women, the children, men's ministry, that I had to develop those leaders so that they could take a part of the load. And with that, there were times I had this wonderful deacon, I don't mind calling their name, John. There was Deacon Elvin Williams and Sister Johnny Williams, the late Sister Johnny Williams. Uh, when we were going to school, my wife and I, they would come and keep our children. And mind you, we would live about 30 miles away. So when we would got to get out around 10 o'clock p.m., they would go pick up our kids from school on those days and then take them to our home and stay there till we got home about 11 o'clock.
Wow.
So that really helped us being by vocation. So I'll tell anyone if they're thinking about, or even right now they're struggling, you got to develop your people. That's why Jesus made disciples because he realized he was one day going to leave, and so you have to do that so that you can make that load lighter on yourself. I'm not going to say it was easy. I'm not going to say that because our children still had activities at their school. My wife and I were trying to split because one of our daughters was doing one. We have three daughters, so one was doing one thing. We had the other two playing sports. One was home. One was away. So we trying. Okay, Linda, you go to this. I'll go to. So it was a struggle because family comes first. So
Mhm.
so I'll let my wife kind of talk about that from her perspective.
Yes, I was working also too. I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, the Houston office for 37 years, and bivocational, as he has stated, between working, going to school, churching, and a family. And I think that's kind of what kicked off this book also too, is when we talked about family matters, trying to shuffle those things around by being bivocational. It's a very hard task in connecting all the dots while you're working at the same time. Sometimes things get thrown off the table. Sometimes things get left undone. Trying to shift things around. So it's a hard process, but you just have to make that process work because you look at it. God's able to make all things work together for good to those who
Mhm.
love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So when you know that there's purpose, you're able to get those dots connected, even if they're all over the table. Eventually, they come together. So being bivocational, now we're reaping some of the benefits
Oh
of
yeah.
being bivocational.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because well, first off, I see people who are secure in who they are,
Yes.
because that's one of the things that even back in Moses' day, like you can't lead all these people.
Right.
His father-in-law was like, you're gonna die, millions of people leading the children of Israel. And then of course Jesus showed us too, he needed 12.
Right.
Right.
And so we've got to be confident and comfortable in ourselves to build a team and
Right.
to be able to have a team. So Pastor Smith, as the leader and the visionary and as the servant leader, how does that work to be able to be comfortable in your own skin? I know a lot of people, they let their egos get in the way
Mhm.
of the as they say, the long-term goal. They somehow let their egos get in the way, and it can destroy what God, and as First Lady Smith said, you're reaping the benefits of it now, but it looked terrible then. But
Mhm.
sometimes you have to balance yourself out and get your
Yeah.
ego out of the way. Did that come from training, or as they say, falling down and scraping your knees and bumping your head? Or did somebody come along and say, okay, Pastor, the only way you're going to get this done is, we got to do it this way?
Well, let me say first that it came from a lot of training from the city of Houston. Again, through my career and, being supervisor and manager, they send you to all these different trainings and development and how to communicate, how to deal with antagonists. And so I think through a lot of the training at the city of Houston helped develop my leadership ministry um, at the church. Also, I never stopped trying to learn, going to different seminars or workshops within the Christian field, right? So, and I'm gonna be very honest, it was hard because when you're pastoring, it's hard to let go. And I did have that issue. I'm not gonna sit here and try to fabricate a story. Yes, in my early years of pastoring, I had to be hands-on. And what you don't want to do is micromanage people, because when you start micromanaging, they'll just sit back and say, okay, we'll let you do it. And then I have to go back to them. So it took some years of development in my interpersonal skills I had to learn how to let go. My wife was very instrumental into that because she said, baby, you got to let them bump their heads. You got to let them fail, and you got to be okay with failure, because that's the only way people are going to learn how to do better. But as a leader and a pastor, nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes to lose. You like to win.
Yep.
In developing people, you have to allow them to make mistakes in order for them to get better.
Mhm.
And so that's been this kind of the story of my tenure in being secure in who I am, and the people being secure and trusting me, and that I trust them.
I
Mhm.
mean, that's phenomenal. Did you have anything you wanted to add, First Lady, on that? Because it sounds like you were really instrumental in that.
Yeah, well, I can just say kind of like what he said. Sometimes we kind of clip the wings of people and don't give them the opportunity to actually fly. We want them to fly, but then we want to hold the wings. So if they never get a chance to get off the table, how would they know that they can fly? So a lot of times we have to release people so that they can fly and be all that God has called them to be. So that's my take on
I
it.
mean, that is a bolder nugget from both of you, because I think a lot of times we do have, I confess, my name is Julia Royston, and I do have control issues. I do. And
Yeah.
have to work on that constantly, because there is a multiplicity of things that I can do, but we go further and we will go faster if we go together, and if we have a group and a team. So I'm still learning that. I'm a
Yeah.
solopreneur, but I'm still definitely still learning that. So with ministry and job and working, it all worked together for your good. And I know we have talked in our meetings, and we were working on your book, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. That's my next major thought. But how the benefit of being bivocational really helped you all in the middle of a pandemic. Now, I really want you all to kind of address that. So, even though it was hard when you first started, and hard when you're working and managing babies, and wanting to be there to support them, but on when during this pandemic, it's really been a helpful benefit. Correct?
Yes.
Yes, it has. Let me first tell you how it benefited us with that. I used to have ministers and pastors say, man, you need to go ahead and leave your job. You need to give God and trust Him. And that was a struggle. Do I really have faith in God to leave my job and then go full time in ministry? But sometimes we just have to. I thank God for Paul being a tent maker and he was still doing ministry because I had to find
Exactly.
I had to find some peace in like, do I leave my job and make my family struggle?
Yeah.
So I had to think about my family came first. So it would bother me, but I thank God I did not make the move based on hearing man, that I really was faithful continuously in ministry, didn't try to, cut no corners, um, tried to do my best. Let me just say it like that. And the benefit now during COVID is that my wife and I are both retired. So we have the energy, we have the time to really do what we need to do, to make the adjustments that we needed to make, to get the resources that we need in order to continue to function as a ministry and still meet the needs of the people. And it has even been better because not only do we meet the needs of the congregation, but now what really Christ has called us to do, and that's outreach, reach the people
Yes.
outside the
Yes.
four walls of the church.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's a beautiful thing, because I know from publishing your all's book, you both have volunteered extensively
Right.
in the community. And I think that's really what it's all about. And I think the difference in some ministries and some other ministries, one of the vast differences has been their community outreach. I'm telling you, that has really been incredible. And I had the same toy back and forth from being in business full time and then business part time, and working a job, and people like, quit that job. I'm like, no, I'm 2 years from a pension. Why would I quit that job? Why would I do that? I mean, I've got a year left. No, I'm not jumping ship. If it's $2, give me my $2 until I die. My pension will give me my $2 a month until I die. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm so thankful I did. I'm so thankful I listened to my husband. I listened to my own mind. I listened to God to be able to do that, because I'm in a position to do greater ministry. You're in a position to do greater works. And even though that balance of that sacrifice is very hard, and going back and forth and in the car and travel and negotiating times off, it's beneficial. It is wonderful. It's wonderful. So we're going to take another break right here.
I would like my
Oh,
wife to kind of share a little bit about that because I always like for her to share her story because,
well, go right ahead.
yeah,
Go right ahead.
doing this ministry. How does that work?
Well, I think when you say about the ministry, and like you said, I'm glad that we didn't prematurely make that move. People say do certain things, but man plan, but it's God who directs our steps. So I'm
Exactly.
glad that He actually directed our steps to keep going forward. And giving, not only just giving Him what He deserves, but also on our jobs being good stewards, because every job needs even some people that will carry His word even at the job. So we can be good stewards of Him at the job. Also, too, during the pandemic, it with us still working and being able to retire, it still gave us the capability of giving Him what rightly belongs to Him. And
Yes.
I will say that I think that our lives have truly been blessed when you talk about financially. is that we give God first what belongs to
Yeah.
him. We don't cut him short, not one bit. Even we have the conversation now is that we still tied the same thing that we did when we were working full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
That
so,
is awesome.
yeah, so God is able to meet that need, that we're even still able to give back what rightfully belongs to him. And then even outside of that, we always try to take 10% of our salary to help someone else.
No, that's
So we
awesome.
set that aside every year so that we can help others throughout the year.
That is
So,
awesome. That is awesome. That
yes.
is awesome ministry. I hope if those of you who are listening and you're in ministry that you would take notes. You have to learn from people who have done it and seen the blessings. As Malachi 3 says, try God. So we
Yeah.
have to try God and see him work. And the testimony of the Smiths will hopefully enable us all to continue to try God. Because I've seen him do miracles. I've seen him do the miraculous. When we put our faith and confidence in him, we truly will live our best life. We'll be right back.
Yes.
And we're back with the Smiths, the Houstonians, and from Big T, Texas. I'm so glad that you were on my guest for today, and super excited. And those of you who are in ministry and young, please take notes of all that the Smiths have told us, because your latter end shall be greater than your former end. It
Mhm.
shall work out all for our good. So I'm thrilled and super excited and of all that they are able to do and have accomplished. Speaking of accomplishments, my favorite portion of the show is to talk about the book. So I've been advised by Pastor Smith, the First Lady Smith is going to take this part. Tell us about your book and where we can get it and how we can pay for it.
All right. Well, we have the book, that the Family Matters book. You can purchase the book by going to www.gum.com/Family Matters paperback. And you can also purchase from on Cash App at $ Smith Family Matters.
So their
So,
book is really in regards to family matters. That is something that was uh, in the heart of Pastor Smith, and you could tell they are definitely family people. Family is number one. Family is first. The church family. It's all about family. So, so where did you, Pastor Smith, the Family Matters? Where did you really get the heart for that book?
I got the heart from Family Matters one day sitting at one of my relatives' funerals. We lost three family members in 3 weeks. I mean, back to back. I was, in fact, while I was preaching my uncle's funeral, I was receiving a text that his sister, my auntie, had passed the same day while I was at the funeral.
Wow.
Um, the very next day, my first cousin passed. I had already been kind of saying I wanted to write a book, my wife and I. And so this thing came that Family Matters.
mhm.
In the midst of sometimes family, there are things that have happened in the past that people are still holding on to as children, and you forgot about it, but sometimes they still hold it in their hearts. And so you like, man, what's important? Holding on to these grudges, not getting along, not wanting to reconcile, or do we all just need to say, hey, let bygones be bygones, let's come together as a family so that we can get closer? Because we have to love one another. You want to give people flowers while they living, because we can say all these, flamboyant and all these words of flowering words while they're deceased, but the deceased can't hear it.
Mm-mm.
And so we want to make sure that if you love someone, tell them that you love them, show them in action that you love them. There's dysfunction in all families. My wife and I have to explain in the midst of Family Matters that we haven't had the perfect family with our own family, our own children. We've had the same struggles, the same ups and downs, the same when your children get to be adolescents and teenagers, they go through this phase. We've been through that, done that. So we just want to let people know, how do you maintain relationships is going back to the biblical way. Now, again, that's not everybody may not agree with that, but we have to go back to the original plan, which is God's plan. My wife and I agreed that we will not compromise the gospel. We will not be ashamed of the gospel. And if we want families to be constructive, we want family to function as God has created it to function, we have to go back to the plan. I worked at the city of Houston 31 years, and that's one of the things. You could not get an inspection or pass an inspection if you altered the plans.
All right.
So we have to make sure that we go back to the plan from a biblical perspective.
Exactly. That's one of the main things to me that came out of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Is that we were in the house. We were shut
Right.
up
Yeah,
in the house. We've been in the house together, huh? And I have told and I have no problem telling. And I told the Smiths, now when y'all do marriage counseling, I don't care if you do it virtually or in person, be sure and add that. Make sure you like them people you getting ready to marry, not just
Exactly.
love them. That you like them people you marry, because you could be stuck in the house with them for a solid year with a global pandemic.
Right.
Because you just never know. I mean, being able to have the camaraderie of ups and downs. And so I want First Lady Smith to address that, because it you all have that now, but that everywhere he is, you are, and y'all go together like two peas in a pod, and that's so wonderful. But you have to get there, don't you?
Right. You definitely have to get there. And like you say, you have to like each other. Some people are together and don't even like each other. Sometimes, you wonder, and you look at people, are they reading the same book? I mean, are they on the same page? They're not even in the same book. So anyway, so that makes a big difference. And even through the pandemic, there has been so much domestic violence, and I think it comes out of we being in everybody being in the house together. Before the pandemic, everybody was going to and fro, so nobody was actually stable together. But now you have families who are stable together, and even we wrote the book. And like you say, it was probably in God's timing, because even through the COVID-19, we have gotten so many phone calls, of people having family issues because they're in the house together.
Right, exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah, so the book really came at a really great time during the pandemic. So, like you say, when you're in the house, when you begin to get married, you got to really make sure that you really like this person. You can't be getting married because they got money, because the money may run out.
You're right about that. And
Yeah, so
he's cute. Cute is gonna run out too.
exactly, exactly. So, if you but when you got one of those Coke bottles and it turns into a Mr. Pibb,
Oh, watch out now. Watch out now. A 2 liter or 1 liter. What?
right,
No.
exactly. So anyway, so just humorous, but that does make a difference. So the book came right in time. So really believe that your family does really matter.
Right, right. Because I met Pastor Smith at a music conference, NCGCC, National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. And it seemed like we would, come on, Pastor Smith, we can get this book. And then I met First Lady Smith. I was like, come on, First Lady, we can get this book. But God knew it was right on time.
Right,
God's timing is perfect timing. Because
right.
I think the families needed pray that book, and your prayers and you all consistent examples for this season that we're in, exactly right here and right now. So if you would like to get multiple copies, they'll be happy to sign multiple copies for you. Go to gumroad.co/ Family Matters Paperback. And that's the direct link to purchase their book. And they'll be happy to sign copies and ship them right out to you. Now, if you say, I don't use, I want to use Cash App, because I know that's the way the young people are. So go to Cash App, which is $ Smith Family Matters with the S. So Family Matters, it's a wonderful book. It is inspiring. It is a timely. It is a book not only for just husband and wife, but an extension, the aunties and grandmothers, and it's going to take a village, and it's taking a village right now, even though we're in Zoom and electronic. So it's definitely taking a village. And so reach out to them. I'm quite sure if you all's schedules can align, that the Smiths would be happy to be guests on your podcast, guests on your workshops, your virtual conferences, etc. Because right now we're in still in the virtual space. We pray we'll be in person sometime soon, but for now, just like they are being interviewed by me, they would be happy to discuss their book and help others along the way. They have the wisdom, they have the experience, and they have the knowledge and God's spirit to be able to do that. It's been a pleasure having Pastor David Smith and First Lady Linda Smith on Live Your Best Life, because they're living their best life. They
Yes.
struggled, they worked, they prayed, they cried, they worked hard, but
Yes.
when you put it all out there and you do it God's way, He will enable you in your latter days to be greater than your former days. I'm Dr. Julia Royston, praying always, today, tomorrow, and always, that you live your best life. Reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you don't remember, "Oh, wait a minute, that book talk about family matters," reach out to me. I'll be happy to put you in connection with the Smiths. If in Houston you don't remember what part of Texas, it doesn't matter. Just reach out to Julia Royston, and I'll be happy to connect you with the Smiths for ministry, for workshops, conferences, and being guests on podcasts, etc. So reach out to me on Julia Royston, Live Your Best Life page on Facebook as well. And I'm everywhere you want to be. So you all be blessed. Have an awesome rest of the day and the rest of the week, month, and year. Live your best life. Have a great day. Bye bye.